Hey guys, what's up? This is Alex Donaldson from Level Up Guitar, coming at you live from the Hideout Recording Studio in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'd like to, number one, thank Sam Mash for the opportunity um, to let me go ahead and stream here. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback on where I'm going here. I'm scooting to the left a little bit. Hopefully that's a little bit killer. All right, looks like we're good. Hey Regina, what's up? Thanks for tuning in here. I'm sure I'll have a couple of great guitar students, letting me know what's up. I'm sure they've heard this lesson a million times before here. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes here to let people join. And today we're going to be talking about modes. We'll be talking about modes, what modes are, and also more importantly, um, inefficiencies in the way they're taught. And I really go into this specifically whenever I have an intermediate student. I've been teaching guitar for 15 years, and there's definitely several roadblocks that intermediate guitarists definitely hit when it comes to learning these modes. And I address all of these modes in my subscription-based lesson service called Level Up Guitar. So cool. We'll talk more about Level Up as it goes here. Hi, hey Mexico. Hello from Las Vegas here. Great. So let's get started here. So let me talk about here. I'm coming at you live from the Hideout Recording Studio. The Hideout Recording Studio is a recording studio in Las Vegas, Nevada. They have a lot of fantastic active rock bands. I highly suggest checking out their roster at hideoutlv.com. I'd like to also talk about Level Up Guitar, which is again, that subscription-based guitar lesson service that I run. Pretty much it addresses intermediate level guitar hurdles, such as the modes. The modes are one of the big ones. That's why I chose to make our first live stream about the modes. Okay, and Level Up Guitar, as you should be able to see it right there on your screen, is spelled LVL UP GTR.com, and you can go ahead and use the coupon code SAMASH25 for $5 off a month. Okay. And also check out my band, giving a couple plugs here before we start letting people, enter the chat. Check out my band Crash Midnight at Crash Midnight, on all social platforms. We're actually opening up for Steel Panther here July 3rd at the House of Blues. First show back at the HOB. We love everybody there. We love Steel Panther. It's going to be a great time. Okay. Great. So let's go ahead and start talking about the modes. And let's talk about, first I'm going to kind of talk about what the modes are. And then we're going to address a couple of roadblocks and roadblocks that intermediate guitarists often hit when they are learning these modes. Okay. So what are the modes? All right. Essentially, most contemporary songs can be categorized into one of 6 modes. There's actually 7 modes, but there's 6 of them are the most popular. And my goal for my intermediate guitar students is to be able to look at a chord progression and to determine what mode it's in. For instance, if I'm looking at Last Dance with Mary Jane by Tom Petty, I know it's an A Dorian. And they know this because they're able to analyze the chord progressions. Okay, so that's kind of the first goal that I have for people is figure out, hey, what mode is this song in, and how do I play that mode? And also, as we progress, we learn 5 different ways to do so. Okay, so let's start off by talking about what are the modes. Okay, and before we do that, we need to talk about our major scale. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share for you this major scale here. Hold on, I'm kind of getting used to this Restream app. Let's see here. Let's see how this goes. Here we go. Go ahead and click share. And then let me know if you guys can see this here. Let's do widescreen. How's that? Okay. Take a look at this. This is our chord graph of our Ionian mode. Our Ionian mode is typically referred to as the major scale. And what you'll notice here are those red dots. If you're not familiar with a chord graph, are called roots. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play the Ionian mode here in the key of A, and let me know if you guys can see everything. So that red dot is going to be my root right here. Okay, and what you'll notice is there's a note right before the red dot, but we're going to ignore that. So basically, the first octave of my Ionian mode sounds like this. Okay, and then we have our second octave. Let me go ahead and turn down the input on that guitar level a little bit for us so it's not blasting. Let me know how this sounds, guys. Then we have one more note right here. Right? So that's my Ionian mode. That's what so much of Western music is based on, right? And this scale, we have often heard it as, sometimes you might hear it as like, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Same thing, okay? Now, all of my modes are actually contained within that one scale here. We have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay? And basically, when I go 1 to 1, that's going to be our first mode, our Ionian mode. Okay? Now, when I go from 2 to 2, 1, 2, that's going to be Dorian. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And my third mode is going to go from 3 to 3. That's going to be my Phrygian. And so on and so forth. So we basically have seven notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And each of those notes, if I go from 1 to 1, 2 to 2, etc., are a different mode. And what I'm going to go ahead and pop up here are the order of modes for y'all. So let me go ahead and take this off. And show you my order of modes. Screen share. Oop, that is not it. Window. Fantastic. Here we go. Sorry, guys. I'm still getting used to this program. Please bear with me. We'll go add it on. And what you'll see right here are the order of different modes, essentially going from 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, etc. Okay? And you can go ahead and look up online different box patterns or sign up to levelupguitar.com and figure out different shapes for this. But that is all my modes. All my modes are 1 to 1 is Ionian, if you want to refer to that box again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. If you take a look, Dorian is 2 to 2. 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 to 3 is Phrygian. 4 to 4 is Lydian. 5 to 5 is Mixo. 6 to 6 is Aeolian. 7 to 7 is our final one, our Locrian. So that's all the modes. The modes are all self-contained in that one shape, okay? But what you can go ahead and look up here are the different patterns for all of those modes. Like I said, Ionian's 1 to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. My Dorian's going to be 2 to 2. But if you go ahead and you look up Dorian on the internet, they're going to show you probably this shape. Let me go ahead and get this going for us. Here's my Dorian. Oops, so screen share. They'll probably show you something like this Dorian mode for 2 to 2. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Moving around so much. It's going to look like this. Okay, so that's my Dorian mode. And essentially for every single mode, they're going to show you different, you're going to have a completely different shape. And all of this information is very readily available on the internet for you. Okay, so that's what the modes are. They're essentially going from note to note. There's 7 different modes, 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4, etc. What you want to do is you want to have that order of modes memorized, as well as the different shapes. And all of that information can be found online. So what we're going to be talking about today and primarily focusing on are hurdles that people have when it comes to understanding that material, okay? So if I want to go ahead and kind of backtrack here and play what I just played, all of those modes sound like the same scale, right? Because if I play 1 to 1 Ionian, 2 to 2 Dorian, 3 to 3 Phrygian, etc. If I put them in that context, it all kind of sounds the same. And what I've done is over the years, I've had so many fantastic intermediate guitar players come in with everything memorized. Okay, they know every single shape. For instance, they'd be like, okay, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, etc. And you can again find that information online. They had all that stuff memorized. But the number one hurdle that they would run into is they didn't understand the tonality of each scale. Okay, what do I mean by tonality? Tonality is, in essence, lightness and darkness. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean, you know, like heavy metal is a super dark genre on one end of the spectrum, and you know, you might have some jazzy stuff like Pat Metheny on the other end. So some of those modes are super, super dark, and some of those modes are super, super light. And whenever somebody comes in learning all these scales at once, they never get context of that ever. You know, so that's what we're going to first talk about today. We're going to talk about what modes are light and what modes are dark. And I always have my students think of different song examples so they can start to hear some of these modes in action. And having a song example is kind of the first step to being able to hear the mode, because eventually what you want to do is you just want to be driving down the street and say, oh, wow, that sounds like Dorian. For instance, what did I hear? I heard something the other day that was Dorian. It was "Say Something" by Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton. It was in C Dorian, and you're just driving down the highway, you know, mind your own business, and all this stuff will come back to haunt you at all times. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull up the order of modes again, and I want to talk about which modes are light and which modes are dark, because that is a piece of information that's very often overlooked whenever somebody tries to learn this stuff on YouTube, or they try to you know, learn this on their own. So let me go ahead and try this again. Here we go. Open this. Let's get our order of modes going. Let's say window, this window, perfect. So once again, here's the order of modes. Okay, 1 to 1 is Ionian, 2 to 2 is Dorian, 3 to 3 is Phrygian, etc. Okay, now what you'll see is these Roman numerals. These Roman numerals are a chord scale, and we're going to save this for another lesson. What we're going to do right now is we're going to first start to talk about which of these are minor and which of these are major. Okay, our minor modes are going to be 2, 3, and 6. And the reason you can tell that is because they're notated using lowercase Roman numerals. Okay, my major modes are going to be 1, 4, and 5 because those are uppercase. Okay, my 7th mode, my Locrian, is under, you know, it's lowercase but with also a circle on it. That's going to be our diminished mode. We're not going to worry so much about the diminished mode yet, but that does come up in Level Up Guitar. We talk about how that functions just a little bit in contemporary music. But for right now, we're going to focus on our 3 major modes and our 3 minor modes. Okay, once again, our 3 major modes are 1, 4, and 5. Ionian, Lydian, and Phrygian. Ionians from the 1 to 1, Lydians from the 4 to 4. I'm sorry, Ionian, Lydian, and mixed Lydian. I said Phrygian there because I was looking at it thinking about a Phrygian song, but backtrack that. 1, 4, 5. I'm sorry, Ionian, Lydian, mixed Lydian. Those are our major modes, and our minor modes are 2, 3, and 6. Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian. So if I look at Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian, the brightest one out of all of those modes is our Dorian mode. Okay? Examples of Dorian are like Oye Como Va by Carlos Santana, and like I said, that Say Something by Justin Timberlake. So it's minor, but it's not as dark as like a Metallica song or a Megadeth song. Okay? So Dorian is going to be our brightest mode. And like I said, that's going to be a lot of Santana, although we have some Aeolian Santana as well, like Oye Como Va, Say Something by Chris Stapleton and Justin Timberlake. Okay. Also, Last Dance with Mary Jane by Tom Petty. So those are minor, but they're not super dark. Okay. So Dorian is my brightest minor mode. Now let's go to our darkest minor mode. Our darkest minor mode is going to be Phrygian. Okay. Phrygian is where a lot of your super heavy metal comes into play here. Like Phrygian is like the riff and the verse of Oh, gosh, Symphony of Destruction by Megadeth is a good example, although it goes into some chromaticism later on. Basically, in order to get darker than Phrygian, you can employ chromaticism like Slayer does. But that riff to Symphony of Destruction is a great example. So Phrygian, we have the darkest minor mode. And also, what's another example of Phrygian? There's this kind of this parody. No, it's not all heavy metal. There's like this parody rap song called La 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 by Y2K and like BBNO $. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. One of my younger students gave it to, but it's a Phrygian chord progression. Okay. So Phrygian is going to be my darkest. Dorian is going to be my brightest. And then in the middle, we're going to have Aeolian. Okay. So Aeolian is darker than Dorian, but not as dark as Phrygian. And that's that dichotomy that I want you to understand. Okay, I want you to understand what mode is light, what mode is dark, because like I said, so many people come in with all of these shapes memorized and they don't have any reference for what they're supposed to sound like. So if you wanted to write a heavy song, Phrygian is a good place to start. If you wanted to write a cool little classic rock song that's not too dark, you might want to do Dorian. Okay, so examples of Aeolian, let's talk about that. So Aeolian's the one in the middle. We have like the riff to Crazy Train is a great example of Aeolian, you know, right there. Other examples, I think like Fallen by Alicia Keys is a great example. So I'm trying to use rock examples and pop examples to show you that it's literally all over the place. You see these modes everywhere. Okay, so tonality with the minor modes. Our minor modes are Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian. My brightest minor mode is Dorian, right? That's our Oye Como Va, that's our Tom Petty. My darkest minor mode, is Phrygian, and that's our Metallica, that's our Megadeth, you know, and then the one in the middle is Aeolian. So I want you to understand that dichotomy before you dive in and learn all of these shapes. You can learn all of these shapes anywhere. You can Google modes and they will show you all of these shapes. But what people often overlook is the tonality. So there we go. Minor modes are 3 minor modes: Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian. Dorian is bright, Phrygian is dark, Aeolian is in the middle, right? So let's do the same thing with our major modes. Okay, like I said, our major modes are 1, 4, and 5. Our major modes are Ionian, Lydian, and Mixolydian. All right, so let's talk about what's the brightest major mode out of all of those. The brightest major mode is going to be Lydian. Okay, Lydian is our brightest major mode, and examples of Lydian are like, oh gosh, like that Joe Satriani, a lot of Joe Satriani. What's that called? Flying in a Blue Dream, I think it is. Also, like the verse to Maria by West Side Story. That's Ben, give a heads up from that. That's a great example. All other Lydian examples are like the verse to Man on the Moon by REM. So it's a very, very bright mode. Okay. We have Lydian, which is our brightest major mode. We want to understand that. Our darkest major mode. Now, again, this is a major mode, so it's not going to be super dark. It's just going to be the darkest one in context of those 3. It's going to be Mixolydian. Okay, examples of Mixolydian are a lot of reggae and a lot of, you know, jam band stuff. Like you have Fire on the Mountain by the Grateful Dead. That's a great example of Mixolydian. What those I swear, those great jam bands, they'll just jam Mixolydian for 45 minutes and you know, it'll sound awesome. So we have Fire on the Mountain by the Grateful Dead. It's a great example. Let's see. How about like Can't You See by the Marshall Tucker Band? That's a great classic rock example. Again, dark, but not super dark because it's still major. Another example is going to be like, I just was thinking of one. How about Bad Fish by Sublime? That's a good example. A lot of reggae too. Okay, so our 3 major modes. Lydian is the brightest. Mixolydian is the darkest. Okay, and the one that's in the middle is Ionian. Ionian was just a regular major scale that we learned. Okay, examples of Ionian: A Million Songs. So much pop music is written in Ionian. Gosh, I'm Yours by Jason Mraz. You look up examples of Ionian, you'll get so many of them. Don't Stop Believing by Journey. I'm literally overwhelmed by examples of Ionian. I can't even like So many examples of Ionian. Okay, so those are my major modes. What is the tonality? That's what we're talking about today. That's why we're saying unlocking the modes. Everybody has all these modes locked together, right? We want to unlock them and understand what's going on here. We want to understand the tonality. That's so important because so many people connect all these things together and they don't have context for what they sound like. Our three major modes. Brightest is Lydian. Darkest is Mixolydian. In the middle is Ionian. This is so important for composition and writing your own music, okay? So, quick recap here. We have the minor side. What's our brightest one? Our brightest one is Dorian. Our darkest one is Phrygian. The one in the middle is Aeolian, okay? On our minor side, on our major side, we have Lydian is the brightest. Mixolydian is the darkest. And Ionian is in the middle, okay? So that is modal tonality. We definitely want to understand that it's pivotal for truly understanding the modes. Again, because so many people just have these shapes caught up, and that's what it's all about, is learning the tonality. Sorry guys, I'm reading some of the comments as well as I'm going over here. Thank you for the support, everyone. I see a lot of my former guitar students are logged on tonight. Thank you so much, guys. And I'm reading these comments here. Does Sam Ash offer Brooklyn guitar lessons? I'm sure they do, and I'm sure there's great instructors there. Great. Everybody check out Level Up Guitar. So tonality, let's understand modal tonality. Great. All right, guys. So that sounds great. We're talking about. Does anyone have any questions about modes? I mean, that's pretty much what I wanted to go over regarding modal tonality, the brightness and the darkness, and that's something that people often overlook when they're learning them. Okay. Now, secondarily, what I also wanted to go over is another hurdle that people have when they start to take a look at these modes and they try to learn them, and that is because, well, there we go. I'll give a shout out to my sister tuning in. Hi, Michelle. I'm getting laughed at here at Side Stage. So let's talk about how to learn these scales, okay? And like I said, these scales are readily available online. You pretty much can, type in Dorian Mode and you'll be overwhelmed with images of everything, of all these Dorian modes here. So let me go ahead and bring up Dorian again here. Give me a second. Let's take a look at this and let's see how we can best break this down. Here we go. Here's my Dorian. Screen share. Window. Here we go. So let's say I went to Google and I want to learn my Dorian mode. Again, what is Dorian? Dorian is my brightest minor mode. We're thinking Santana, etc., all that good stuff. And it shows me this, okay? And if you're at the intermediate level, you probably understand that the roots are going to be the red notes, right? And what I have is I always have people come in, they say, okay, here's Dorian, let's learn it. But the problem is what people often do is they overwhelm themselves by looking at this entire shape. They try to learn too much too fast. Oftentimes I'll get, some very, very ambitious students try to learn all 6 modes. And what happens then is they retain none of that information. Okay, so my best advice when it comes to learning these is to, number one, start off with one mode at a time. And until you have that memorized, don't move on to the next one. And then also, what we want to do is we want to take this shape and break it down further. And what I have people do is improvise using 2 strings at a time. So instead of looking at all this, what I have my students start to do is look at, bear with me, is to look at this. Take a look. So what I want to do is I want to look at 2 strings at a time, okay? And if I wanted to play an A Dorian, so those are my first 2 strings, that's string number 1. The A is going to be on that first string because that's where that red dot is. Now, where's the A? We should know at the intermediate level that the A is right here on the 5th fret on the first string, okay? So my first 2 strings are 5, 7, 8, and 5, 7, 8. And what I have my student do sometimes, against their will, is to improvise using just these two strings, okay? And how do we practice our modes? YouTube backing tracks. One of the greatest resources to learning guitar are these backing tracks on YouTube, okay? So what I do is I go to YouTube and I type in Dorian backing track, okay? And this is a backing track from a gentleman that I got clearance to use. His name is Sebastian Zanino, and he has fantastic backing tracks, beautiful, beautiful soundscapes. I highly suggest that you check out his YouTube channel. He gave me clearance to use him today. Sebastian Zanino. Shout out to him. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to improvise in A Dorian just using these two strings. Okay. So let's check it out. First off, let me make sure this level isn't completely out of whack here. Here we go. So this is an A Dorian chord progression. You can hear it going 1 to 4. Here's an example of me improvising using just those two strings. So, you know, when I improvise using two strings at a time, several things happen here. Number one, it makes learning the shape a lot more manageable, okay? I don't have to look at the entire 6 strings at one time. And also, it makes it harder on myself to create melodies with just those notes. So it really has me thinking of ideas that would work. I always do that. I always say, okay, I'm just going to improvise using these 3 strings. What's going to work? You know, it's all about, you know, limiting yourself so you can be as creative as possible, right? Also, whenever people start to learn the modes, they always learn it from the 6th string up. So whenever I have a student who already knows the shape, they always start their solo. Like, let me go ahead and give you an example here. If a student learned the entire mode starting from the 6th string, they would always start on the 6th string. Now, you know, solos don't ever start like that. They always start up here, right? They never really start from the 6th string. So this also has the student kind of retrains them into being able to grab this scale from anywhere and not the 6th string, okay? So what happens is I have the student improvise using just these 2 strings. They get a good feel on how to memorize the shape. Then we add 2 more strings. Let me go ahead and show you this image. Here's my Dorian number 2. Edit, window, Dorian number 2. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. I'll get better at timing that later. Here we go. These are 2 more strings to my Dorian. If I want to add this here with adding the next 2 shapes, it will look like this. Oops, let's get some volume. Sorry. Those are my next 2 strings of Dorian. Okay, and again, I'm not overwhelming myself with the first shape. I'm forcing myself to think outside of the box here and only limit myself to this in my improvisation. So here's an example of me improvising over that same Dorian backing track, just using these 4 strings. Take a listen. Let's get in the groove here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and great. So then the student learns those next two strings. Then finally, after all of this work, it's finally time to get the entire shape. And by this point in time, the student has an infinite better grasp on where these notes are. And thank you so much, John. I don't know if you guys can see that here on YouTube. He's commenting that he really learned a lot from this lesson, and I appreciate. He's one of my Level Up subscribers, and also we do personal lessons as well. So thanks for vouching for me. I don't know what comments you guys could read. We're streaming here from Restream. We're streaming from so many outlets. I'm kind of answering questions and comments from different platforms. So I don't know if you guys are aware of all the comments here. I'll do a better job of addressing that next time. I'll try to read the comment there. But it is finally time to learn the entire scale. I started with 2 strings. I added 2 more. Now I'm going to complete the octave. So let's go ahead and take a look at our full Dorian shape. And it looks like... Oh, I need to open it up. It looks like... Sorry, guys. I have so many windows open. There it is. Dorian 3. Window. Here we go. This is my entire Dorian. Okay. I'll do widescreen so you can see everything. Now it's time to learn the entire scale. Okay. We broke it off piece by piece. It's more manageable. And I don't want to move on to another mode until I have this one down. Here's an example of me improvising over the backing track using the whole thing. 2, 3, 4. Volume down. 3, 4. Full scale. Love it. I could do that for hours. I gotta stop myself. So there we go. Always break it down 2 strings at a time. That's the best way to do it. Thank you so much. Hey Kylie. Hey Shad. How you doing? Thanks for the shout out, Chad, on Facebook. He likes the way I teach. He will retain and not forget for years. I appreciate that. So there we go, guys. The 2 things I wanted to talk about today were 2 roadblocks people have when learning modes. Okay, everybody learns the shapes. Again, what are the modes? The modes are just starting from note to note. Here's 1 to 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's Ionian. Dorian is 2 to 2. Phrygian is 3 to 3, etc. That information is always readily available everywhere. Everybody shows that. Everybody teaches that. But the 2 roadblocks that people face that we address today, nobody understands the tonality. Okay, you have to think in terms of tonality. You have to think of what modes are light, what modes are dark. And again, for the minor modes, Dorian is bright. That's my Santana. That's my Tom Petty. Phrygian is dark. That's your heavy metal. That's your Symphony of Destruction. Aeolian's in the middle. You know, that's your natural minor mode. That's your, I guess, Fallen by Alicia Keys, all that good stuff. And then on the major side, Lydian is bright. Mixed Lydian is the darkest one. That's your reggae stuff, and Ionian is in the middle. Okay, so we want to understand tonality. Also, when you're learning the shapes, just do 2 strings at a time. Improvise using 2 strings at a time. And trust me, it is hard and frustrating. You think it's easier, but it's actually harder to do that because you kind of run out of ideas, right? So So absolutely go ahead and improvise using 2 strings at a time. That'll help you retain the shape. Only do 1 shape at a time. Don't try to overwhelm yourself. You won't retain the knowledge, I promise. Well, that's it. Those are, I'll be doing this often here. We'll be talking about challenges intermediate guitarist face, okay? And levelupguitar.com is my website. I address these issues. And you can go over there and check out my resume. I graduated from Berkeley. I just got a gold record for my session work here at the Hideout with a Corey Mark single featuring Travis Tritt, Ivan Moody and Mick Mars. It's such a great single. I have all these accomplishments. I got my songs in Mazda, Coors Light, Kit Kat commercials, dozens of them. My band Crash Midnight has toured all over the place. But what sets me apart are the accomplishments of my students, okay? I have had, in 2011, my students band won Best Teen Band in America. I have students who play guitar in Beartooth. I have students who play guitar in major label signed bands. Half of the students who audition at Berkeley get scholarships. I'm really good at teaching this stuff and relaying it to intermediate students. So thank you so much, guys, for attending my first feed. I'm still learning this program. I hope you all learned a lot. I'm having a great time doing this, and I appreciate your time today. Levelupguitar.com. Check it out. You can use the coupon code SAMASH25, for $5 off a month. And thank you so much for your time, everyone. Hopefully you learned one thing. Have a good one. Thanks, everyone.